The time has finally come. I have read your comments and your suggestions of videos you wanted to see. Thunderbirds have finally arrived. Oh! The stories have been circulating, the stories have been going around the world, and of sightings of giant birds of thunder and lightning that reach and fly in the heavens and reach to the ground to share their medicines or to prey on the weak. Oh. Today's episode we are going to be discussing Thunderbirds. So, I'm going to have to let you know that Thunderbirds, and this story, a little disclaimer, that this is a story from my people. If you go to different tribes, different ethnicities around the world, they're going to differ. They're going to be a little bit different, whether they're good, they're bad, the stories that come behind it. So let me go ahead and take you back. These stories of the Thunderbirds, as how I was told, now there may be different variations with even within the tribe. Now, what I was told is when humans came onto this earth, there used to be villages, there used to be different bands of Navajo Thunderbird people that used to roam the land here. And unfortunately, during that time, this was a time when monsters still roamed the lands here in the Navajo Nation. And so the stories go with this place that one of these monsters was called the Thunderbird. Now, the Thunderbird had a nest in a place called Shiprock, New Mexico. And from what I've heard actually too, is some of my Pueblo friends that I had growing up, they used to tell me that the Shiprock Mountain itself is what, and that whole street that kind of leads up to it, was when a Thunderbird actually fell from the sky, in that whole streak right there. And when it crash landed into the earth, it's where you kind of see like what looks like to be two wings kind of come up right there. And then that mountain right there was actually the final resting place of what is a Thunderbird. And now pretty sure the other Pueblos out there may be able to tell you more details about this if they want to or not. But this is just something I heard from one of my coworkers who's from Taos. And for us, on that mountain right there was the nest of where this deity and this being actually lived. Now, the people that lived around Shiprock itself used to get picked up and taken from their lands and their homes, and then they used to be taken over to this mountain, and their bodies used to be thrown against the cliff faces, and they used to fall on the ground and die. And so the Thunderbird would go and pick up the bodies, and then it would go and feed it to its young. And it wasn't until I mentioned these two warriors, and other spiritual warriors at the time too, would go and they fought these monsters to be able to make this place safe for human beings themselves. So in the monster wars, inside of those creation stories, they went out and they fought so many different types of monsters. And so this being of the Thunderbird was slain, and so but the remnants of its energy, you can say that it still remains on the mountain of Shiprock, Arizona, or New Mexico, sorry. It's a little late for me. So I recently went through Shiprock, and when I drove past the Shiprock mountain that's right there, that was like one of the things I was thinking about. I was like, geez, man, like at the time, this was something that already happened after my experience I had of a Thunderbird. And when I drove past it and I was just thinking about it, I prayed to it, prayed that the energies were good, that the energies, that came from it doesn't get me sick or anything like that. So now this is going to kind of lead into my experience of what I had with an actual Thunderbird. Now, this was a case and a time and location when I didn't think that this would actually happen. This was like one of the last things I was ever thinking of experiencing, and it happened in Vulture City, Arizona, during an overnight paranormal investigation. Now, this was during the time, if you guys haven't yet, you can go check out my video of when I was a tour guide over Vulture City, Arizona. But this was a time when I was still doing my tour guides over there, and every once in a while, the location would host events like a Paracon or overnight investigations, and sometimes they would bring out celebrities. What was very interesting about this overnight investigation and experience was the invitation to bring on Johnny Zaffis. Now, for those of you who do not know, Johnny Zaffis is the nephew of Ed and Lorraine Warren. I'm pretty sure if you guys have seen the Conjuring movies, yeah, Ed and Lorraine Warren, he's their nephew. So he's been on a lot of their cases. He has a TV show, Haunted Collector, on Travel Channel 2 as well. And he has a lot of some of the haunted objects from Ed and Lorraine Warren, and even some of his experiences, his travels that he's been on. So having him there, pretty well-known paranormal investigator, having him there and was just a great honor to be able to experience his point of view on the paranormal. And I have to say, out of everybody that I've met in the paranormal community, Johnny Zaffis is probably the highest person I respect inside of the paranormal community. Just his outlook on the paranormal is very, very similar to how we interact and see the spiritual world. And it was pretty funny because during one of his speeches, he was talking about how a lot of his cases, they were like, oh, I live on an Indian burial ground. And he made the joke, everywhere is an Indian burial ground. And I was like, yes, preach. But he is the type of person that goes to different cultures to experience them, to learn, to hear their stories, their perspectives from different races, different religions, different faiths, all around. And when we were talking with him, it was just such a breath of fresh air of when we would speak to him about the paranormal. And we went in deep with this conversation. It was funny because we're at the fireplace, had a smoke, and we really went into deep conversation. So just to kind of give you a little bit of context on who was actually there and was actually a witness to the Thunderbird itself, this guy has a lot of credibility. Now, before the paranormal investigations actually began at this event, overnight investigation, we were asked to see if we can perform a protection ceremony, a protection blessing for all the attendees that were there. So I was there with my brother Hero at the time, and we went to go investigate the location, or we went to go begin the ceremony. And as we were doing the ceremony, we were singing the songs, and I was at the fire being able to bless people. My brother was singing the songs. Now, after we got done blessing Johnny Zaffis, he went over and sat back down next to the fire. Then we were going down the line of everybody else, and there was a photographer that was there too as well. And this photographer was snapping photos of us. And what was really interesting is inside of the fire smoke, when he took that photo, looked like the face and the beak of what looked like to be a Thunderbird itself. And it looks, if you guys can imagine, it's kind of like a pterodactyl, but with a beak that's not as long. And he showed us this picture a couple days after the event actually happened. Now, during the ceremony, while it was going, the energy was intense. And if you got to go check out the time I was a tour guide at a haunted ghost town, I explained there the background of this town and why it's so spiritually active. Not too far away from this town is an open pit mine, where a lot of the local tribes back in the day, when I mentioned these spiritual warriors used to go out and fight and kill these monsters, they had to go and place them and bury them somewhere. Vulture City was one of those places, and unfortunately, when the mines opened up, spirits of giants started to emerge from inside of the ground. And when it came to that, the giants started roaming around. We're like, okay, cool. Well, hopefully that's the last of it. It wasn't. And during this ceremony, while we were singing our songs and doing what we needed to do, Johnny Zaffis saw something he's never seen before. He felt, and everybody felt at the location, a huge gust of wind go through the whole town. And Johnny Zaffis looks up into the sky, and he sees a wingspan the size of like half of the city, half of the town right there, just fly over, just black, just go fly over the whole town. And he freaked out. And if you're going to freak out Johnny Zaffis, it would have to be pretty big. So after the ceremony was done, he came up to me. He's like, did you see that? Did you see what flew over the town? And we're like, what did you see? He's like, the bird. You didn't see the bird fly over? And we're just like, bird? He's like, the wingspan was massive. And he told us a description of it. And the first thing that popped up in both of my brother and I's mind was the Thunderbird. This is one of those other monsters that were buried inside of this land here not too far away. And so we're just like, okay, so this is Johnny Zaffis's account. So we were on guard. We were ready just in case anything else were to happen. And we were there. And we're just like, okay, well, we'll take that into an account when we do our investigation tonight. Let's go ahead and ask the spirits themselves what they think of the interaction, what they think of what happened, and ask them if they saw the same thing too. So later on in the night, we began our investigation in the assay building. And when we were there, it was very different because the spirits themselves were scared, very, very scared. They're like, help us, save us. We were just like, what's wrong? What's affecting you guys? What can we do to help you guys? We had the SP7 spirit box playing at the time. Colta asked, do you need protection? And this is what came up, the cry of a thunderbird.
Go ahead and keep asking questions. Do you need protection?
Whoa! Dude, that was a cry! No. That's like a bird. Thunder being cried. Yeah,
As you can see, excitement blew up in my face. But then, immediately right after, was fear. Because it was exciting to capture that evidence, but realizing right after the cost, the fear, the power behind of what's flying around in the sky at this very moment was terrifying. And because when it comes to thunderbirds, they're very, very powerful spiritual beings and deities. They have the power of thunder. They have the power of lightning. And there's so many different stories and ceremonies depicting how powerful thunder beings and lightning beings are. And just to have one flying around, going around, was very, very intimidating, even for me and my brother. And this was like, holy shoot, you know, this is going to be a battle of kaijus happening right outside. But throughout the night, we just sang some protection songs for the spirits. They're all inside the building. And we began singing more protection songs for them, praying for them and asking the spirits, just stay calm, stay hidden. Hopefully this thing goes away. And sure enough, it did. Now, whether these beings, I know a lot of you are going to ask, like, was it a physical being? Was it spiritual? This was a time where you have to understand that these beings, when they come to that level of power, can traverse planes. They can traverse different realities when it comes to physical, spiritual, whatever you may think of. And it's very, very powerful. And so this being was probably going in and out, physical, non-physical. And so I would have to say mainly spiritual, though, just to be able to make sure that it covers itself and it's safe. Because if this being was released that night and it's roaming around the lands, that's terrifying. And somebody would have probably already seen it already. So like I said, when it comes to Bigfoot, when it comes to Thunderbirds, all these old spiritual deities from a long time ago, they have been here for a long time. And they know how to go in and out of realities, like how I said. And you just have to be careful. And a lot of people kind of are fascinated by these things. And like how I said, there's good ones and there's bad ones. That's how it is with everything. There's always has to be a balance. Unfortunately, we've dealt with some bad Thunderbirds in our time. Now, I cannot say whether this one was good or bad. I would have to say maybe it's good, but just its power itself was very intimidating. Like the whole time I never really felt in danger. Maybe the spirits did, just because they understood what this thing could actually do if you piss it off. So that right there is a little backstory and a little my firsthand experience with a Thunderbird itself too as well. And it was very interesting to kind of see how John Zaffis took in this information. We talked to him after the investigation. We showed him the cry of the Thunderbird. He was actually on his way over to the airport to fly back home. He's like, give me a couple days to think about it. You know, he was just like, what? And then after that couple days, we talked to him over the phone and he was like, what does this mean? You know, what does this represent? Where does this show where this world is? Why are these beings coming back? Why is this the end times? Is this, does it have a spiritual meaning to it? And then we're saying, yes. The world is in a weird place right now. And this is an omen. This is one of those things, if you see these deities re-emerging from the dead, from their burial grounds, something isn't right. something is preparing, something is big is going to be happening soon. So whenever these things happen, always prepare, always be ready. You never know, mate. You never know what might happen. And I would just say take these as warnings to just be careful out there, everybody. These things are being seen all over the world. And like I said, different cultures, different religions, different tribes will have their own experiences, will have their own stories about these beings and deities. If you watch Pokemon, you can watch Zapdos. Just kidding. But that's going to wrap it up for this episode. If you guys have any more questions or any other suggestions on what you want me to cover as far as for videos in the future, please leave it down in the comments below. Again, can't thank you all so much for joining me on another paranormal episode on Shanclen Shadow Productions. And if you guys haven't yet, be sure to like, share, and subscribe. Turn on your notification bell. YouTube told on all of you. Only 8% of you have your notification bells turned on. Only 8% or 13%. They told on you guys. So turn on your notification bell so you guys can know whenever I go live, whenever I make a post, or whenever I post a video. Oh, and also follow me on Instagram at official Shanclen SSP for all my daily shenanigans. I just posted on the Shanclen Shadow Lodge a new music video I did with Clay and Fire. That one was really fun, so go check that out. There's gonna be some BTS scenes coming up for that as well. And I'm getting ready for a graduation photo shoot, and I just finished up another advertisement promotion for the local dorm here in Holbrook, Arizona. So busy. But again, if you guys haven't seen my latest live stream, I announced that there's going to be a movie coming, a horror movie of Shanclen Shadow Productions. So stay tuned. Go follow me on Instagram. Stay tuned for all that information that's going to be coming up. I'm going to be doing a Kickstarter for that. And maybe you can be on the future movie too at Shanclen Shadow Productions. Oh, so thank you all so much for watching. Hope you have a good morning, evening, afternoon, wherever you are. Hook on it. The second, what? Why'd you turn off? Overheating. Sony A7S IV. I expected better. You're only shooting 4K, 10-bit, 422. It might be on a standard SD card, or it might be because you're shooting 10-bit 422, or you have 38 megapixel camera. Sensor. Yeah. For those of you who don't know, I got a new camera, a Sony A7S IV with a Sigma 70 to 200 millimeter lens. Variable aperture, f2.8 to f22. Change it. It's cool. Tired. Now I gotta edit this video. Hope you enjoy. Oh.